Nuclear power is incredibly safe, one of the safest sources of energy. This is what the studies say. But nuclear has been under attack for decades from anti-nuclear activists. Today I want to explore the viability of nuclear power. We've all seen the demonstrations on TV. Activists dress up in skeleton costumes and talk about death and doom. In fact, they often seem to conflate nuclear power with nuclear war. They imply that anything nuclear leads to death. Well, that's not what the science says at all. Why the disconnect? How can so many people have such divergent opinions from science for so long? The World Health Organization estimates that 4.6 million people die every year as a result of air pollution. And estimates put the number, for example, of people killed in car accidents at 1.25 million worldwide. Yet how many people die each year from nuclear power? Zero. Not a single person has died from nuclear power last year. Nuclear power is the only real option for large-scale replacement of fossil fuels. Many environmentalists know this and are coming around to it, but only beliefs are hard to change. Many environmental groups just assume nuclear is the deadliest form of power generation without looking at the facts, that the radioactivity wastes are deadly. They spread false myths about the environmental damage done by uranium extraction. They spread the anecdotal myth that nuclear is the most risky option for mass power production, and yet most scientists say it is the safest and cleanest. So what is going on here? The arguments against nuclear power are anecdotal. There's a clash of narratives. One narrative is based on the anecdotal stories and emotion. The other is based on careful evaluation of statistical risks and scientific evaluation. Anti-nuclear activists usually focus on the most extreme scenario that they can think of. They're quick to talk about the big three nuclear accidents: 3 Mile Island in 1979, Chernobyl in 1986, and Fukushima in 2011. The combined killed from these incidences are very few. People would be surprised to find out how few people were actually killed. How many people died from Fukushima? Zero. The event easily gets conflated with the tsunami that killed 20,000 people, but the nuclear accident of Fukushima killed nobody. The number of fatalities at 3 Mile Island was also zero. And then there was the worst accident of them all, Chernobyl. Most people are surprised to learn that only 45 people died from these events. This Chernobyl number includes 28 fatalities from radiation doses in the immediate period following the accident. And 15 died from elevated levels of thyroid cancer attributed to the release of the radiation. These accidents, however, will likely never happen again. For various reasons, these accidents could not happen again. Safety is taken very seriously in the nuclear industry. Investigations follow all incidents, even small incidents. The causes are exhaustively studied and the recommendations are made. And like the aviation industry, lessons are learned from these mistakes, and the industry only gets safer and safer. Humans don't create energy. They can only harness it. All forms of electrical production can be broken into two general types: direct capture or fuel-based. Direct capture means capturing energy in its natural form. For example, hydropower captures the kinetic energy of the water flowing downstream in rivers. Or you can capture wind or capture sun rays that would otherwise land on the earth and provide energy to plants. Fuel-based power plants, on the other hand, use fuels. That energy source, called fuel, also starts as a raw source that was also created from natural sources. Modern humans find these raw sources of energy and process them to create these fuels. Whether it's a fuel or the capture of natural processes, the idea is the same. All energy was created from other forms of energy. The energy in fossil fuels, for example, started out as complex molecules built up and stored in life. These living things eat food or absorb sunlight through photosynthesis. They died and decayed. What remains are complex carbon molecules that can be broken down further when burnt. Radiation and fissionable energy derive from unstable natural elements that otherwise will decay until they are stable. The center of the Earth, for example, is largely heated from these processes of nuclear decay. Nuclear technology is expensive. but we need to take a closer look at this. There are about 100 nuclear plants in the United States and 5 in Canada. There are a couple under construction in the United States, but they have experienced cost overruns. So what's going on here? Right now, nuclear has economic problems, and fossil fuels are very cheap. For the nuclear industry is very unique. After World War II, the major powers poured money and effort into nuclear research with the primary aim of developing weapons for defense and trying to stay ahead of potential adversaries. They built reactors for submarines and experimented on all possible approaches to nuclear and different fuel cycles and strategies, often for no other purpose than to not allow the adversaries to get an advantage. These billions of dollars of research funds went into the first generation of nuclear civilian technology. The problem with the nuclear industry is that they are very dependent on technologies that they don't control and they cannot direct. They have nothing like the capital needed to invest in the kind of research that would be needed in such a highly engineered technology. There is relatively a lot less, but still quite a bit of research done today in academic institutions, and the defense departments and energy departments do make a lot of funds available for research. But these end up in niche improvements that don't affect the industry very much, or they are directed to proofs of concept for future ideas. But the industry is totally dependent on the current supply chain and no way to innovate. The electrical generation companies are too small, their margins are too tight, and they have too many other alternate power generation facilities to worry about to focus on the future of nuclear. This is where governments come in. Governments must recognize that laissez-faire capitalism doesn't work well in this case. It works great for clothes and shoes and TV sets. It doesn't work for military defense, fighting disasters, and especially not for national strategic industries that need massive technological investment.